On today's starting nine, Jake and Carl get into a loaded weekend that saw them travel around, have some fun, hang out with some superstars. Speaking of superstars, we're joined by Bill Goldberg today to talk about his life in professional wrestling, transition into fatherhood, and his son, who is a standout high school Texas baseball player. There's plenty of action. The Braves got their ass kicked. The Yankees are struggling. There's never been a time to have a great show. Let's jump into it. This is Starting Nine. Action! And welcome back to Starting Nine, the official baseball show hosted by Barstool Sports. It's Carl here in Chicago. And I'm joined this week by two sleeveless individuals, Jake Arrieta and Bill Goldberg of amazing international stardom. But right now I got Jake. What's going on, dude?
Oh, man, back in Austin. Spent a few days in Chicago playing a member guest. We didn't really have time to get anything done. I was too busy to get my ass kicked on the golf course. But yeah, back.
Didn't sound like it went too well.
No, it wasn't great. We won. We went 1-7 or 2. No, 2-5. Yeah, we didn't play great, but that's all right. I have met a lot of cool people. Didn't win shit. I won part of the raffle. Bottle of whiskey. Outside of that, went home empty-handed.
Member guests are notorious for door prizes. Your member guest was in a relatively affluent part of Chicago. I am hoping for a good door prize. What'd you guys get?
We got some merch from, what's the name of the company? We got some nice golf stuff. Got some polos, got some vests, pair of pants, pair of shoes, couple hats.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean $400 or $500 worth of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, they took care of us. You playing golf this weekend?
So I was supposed to play golf with my father-in-law yesterday on Sunday for my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, Mrs. Carl. I'd set this thing up with
Happy
father-in-law.
birthday.
My parents came up. Yeah, it's huge. We celebrate birthdays very, very hard. Got rained out, so we went to the casino instead and just absolutely hammered the sports book, hammered the video poker. That's a good crew. Like
Any
with
blackjack?
my parents, my in-laws. No blackjack. Tables are filled, and minimum $50 table minimums on a Sunday with my in-laws is not how I want them to like.
It's
They
a little
know that
steep.
guy's there with me, but yeah, they don't want to see that guy on a Sunday afternoon with their daughter. So
Yeah, well,
reserve
that's
Now, here's
kinda-
another cool thing. Yeah.
That's how we handled. That's what we played in Omaha. I mean, it didn't get too out of hand. We actually both won money that night.
Yeah, a little bit. I think when you say both, I think it's you and your buddy Ricky took home some cash. I was paying for drinks. That's the way I kind of see it. I'm going to sit down for a couple hours, make my money back. But honestly, I want to take a second. I almost never talk about her, and for good reason, and it's going to stay that
Mama?
way. But I will say, yeah, happy birthday to Mama. She's
Absolutely.
she's a special lady. She's a very special lady, and she lets me do all. People are always interested. So she met Silvana this weekend, who is dating Dave Portnoy. People know that. And we were out at the club on Saturday. And when I say club, the Barstool River North Bar in Chicago, you guys go check that out, 14 West Hubbard Street. And I was like, Silvana, this is my wife, Mrs. Carl. And she was like, no way. Like, you're married? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, asked me, she's like, how are you married to a Barstool guy? And she's like, it's fun. This is how it's always been. And it was just like the you've got to be kidding me that this guy's married. It's like, no, absolutely. So shout out, Mrs. Carl.
So what? Are Barstool guys not expected to be married to nice women or what?
We're just more like we're like internet creatures. Like we just live very public. Like everything in my life is public. Like everything I do, everywhere I go,
Public,
everything is like
very selfish
it's
lives
just
or
like,
what?
Hey, look, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like Friday night, go to the Elton John concert at Soldier Field, Skybox with Dave and a couple of our UFC fighters, Patty the Baddie and Meatball Molly. And I have to tell Mrs. Carl, like, hey, sorry, this is kind of a work thing, and it's just us. Like, there's high rollers. I got to go do – like, I'm going to be out tonight. And a lot of people would be like, what the fuck? Or I want to go or whatever. She's like, yeah, knock your socks off. Like, come home whenever. Don't be an asshole. I'm probably going to be sleeping.
She gets it.
She's cool with it. So that's why I say, like, there's just a lot of the duality of like – and we talk about this with Bill Goldberg a little bit in this interview. It's cool, of like the duality of like you have to do stuff and put on, and then at the end of the day, you still want to be a good family guy. He wants to be a good dad. He wants to be there for his son, which is a really cool interview to have Bill join the show in a little bit.
Yeah, and you can just tell just if you scroll through his Instagram just a little bit, you see all the videos he's posting of Gage, playing baseball or training for football. And, we kind of get into that, and it's very unique being here in Texas. You're almost expected as a good athlete to play multiple sports and baseball, football, and sometimes basketball specifically. And it's a hard transition going from spring baseball now to fall football, but baseball it's still going on, and there's still going to be some practices and tournaments. So it's hard to navigate that because Cooper right now is practicing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, full pad football, and then trying to sprinkle in a little bit of baseball activity around that. He just had he played 7 games yesterday, flag. He had a flag tournament. They lost in the championship game, so they went 6-1. The team that they lost to won the national championship last year. So, and you'll get to that. When you guys start having kids, it's tough. You want them to do whatever they want, and you want them to play all of it. And Goldberg is right when he said, Gage is now in his 3rd year of tackle football, and you just don't want him to get hurt. You don't want him to get hurt, and I don't know if you had any concussions as a kid. I know I had at least 1 or 2. So you just, that at the end of the day, you just want him to stay healthy.
Yeah, he's been through it. We're going to get to that interview later in the show. Obviously, super cool. Thanks for setting that up, Jake. And some really cool guy stuff there about being like monsters and shit. I have a guy tip that I wanted to share from the weekend. This is the first time I've done something. I thought it was a smooth move. It went over very well, received very well. Saturday was the night we went out for dinner for the birthday, but I had to go to the Barstool River North Bar because we had the UFC fighters in, and we were doing like a big party promotion thing with Patty and Molly. And so I go to Mrs. Carl. I'm like, hey, I know we're going to go out Saturday night for your birthday, but we have to be at the bar like 8 to 10, 8 to 11, which is obviously sweet spot to be out for dinner. So we did 2 big fancy dinners. We did a dinner at 5 p.m. at Momotaro, which is like a Japanese high-end place, which is pretty hard to get a table at. And then we finished with an 11 p.m. restaurant or reservation at like this fancy, super fancy upscale place called Armitage Ale House. And I don't know if I've ever done a smarter move because when we sat down for the second dinner, we were so hungry. And it was like, oh, my God, you're a genius for pulling 2 big reservations. First time I ever did it. If there's somebody out there setting up a birthday dinner for next week, don't be afraid to pull 2.
Yeah, that's a good move. And then sometimes you have to do 2 birthday dinners with 2 different groups of people, right? Like a couple friends over here, you got some family. So, and it's, I got some friends, some of our girlfriends, they like to have a birthday week. I don't know if that's a selfish thing to do. When it's my birthday, I'm like, whatever. Like, let's go to dinner, no big deal. But tell me happy birthday once, and that's it. That's enough. That's all I need.
I don't need the group text.
How are you with your birthday? Do you like to be sucked off for your birthday? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like men aren't like that as much as women are, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I'm not a big fan of celebrating my birthday. I like celebrating other birthdays, but come on, we're in our mid-30s. Do we really need to do that anymore?
No, I think you have to do a big send-off for the 30th party. Like if you're once you turn 30, like that's your last chance to throw a big party till you're 40 until you're 50, and then you just do it every 10 years. I forget. It's like it'll be March 14th, and I'll be like, oh, my birthday's in 2 days. Like I should probably make sure I'm available because people are going to be expecting to like. My parents are going to want to eat dinner. Somebody's going to want to do something, so you want to be available for that. But presents, like, you're probably this way. Like, there isn't anything you don't – like, if you want something, you're just going to go get it.
And Brittany gets mad at me for that. She's like, I can't buy you shit because when you want something, you just end up going to buy it. And, like, I like to do this with gifts instead of just, the obvious – days like birthday or Christmas or Valentine's Day. I just like random gifts for people, throughout the year. Just spontaneous gift giving is a skill, and I think that people need to learn how to do that a little bit more. Like the chocolates and flowers on Valentine's Day. I don't need to be told when to do that for my wife, so I might just randomly, today go buy her some shit. Some flowers or some chocolates and just, let her know I love her.
When I was leaving my old sales job for Barstool to go full time, a young guy that I had been training for a couple of years gave me, this is one of the nicest gifts anybody's ever given me. This is why I'm telling you a story. But it's not a family member. It's not just like a guy I was working with for a while. We're still friends. And he gave me a portable phone charger. And he was like, you're going to be on your phone 10 hours a day. You're going to need a charge. When you need a charge and like you're down and you plug this baby in, whether it's a Bears game or a Cubs game, he's like, I'm always there to give you a little boost, buddy. And it was like a nice fucking note. I was like moved. I mean, this thing probably cost $15, could get it at Best Buy. But it was just so packaged, so nice. And to this day, I use that phone charger. It's like it was with us in Los Angeles. You saw me. I was sitting in the
You had it.
sharing.
You had it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's one of those things. It's like that's a gift you can give to somebody, in the middle of the year on a Tuesday. Like, hey, I was thinking about you. I know your phone's almost dead all the time. So here you go. Enjoy that. And I don't have a good one. And everybody needs that. Like if you have if you're a backpack guy or a fanny pack guy, that's one of those little things that can fit in there with your charging cable. That you'll be glad you have. You got your firearm, your knife, your charger, and chapstick.
Don't leave home without it. Okay, speaking of dead phones, my phone is alive and well. The Atlanta Braves are not. So this is one of the biggest series of the year to date, with the Braves coming into to Citi Field. Scherzer is pitching, DeGrom is pitching. And probably there's some takeaways from this series. I'm going to start with the primary one. Edwin Diaz's walkout song, the trumpets, Narcos, this thing has caught fire. Good on the Mets for putting together that crazy 4K or 10K video or whatever of him jogging out from the bullpen. I think people saw it firsthand and got like a holy shit. Not only is Edwin Diaz the most dominant closer in baseball right now, he has the most dominant walkout song, walkout presentation. It gives me the chills. It gives me hope for baseball. I loved it. I love everything.
Yeah, walkout songs are extremely important. Extremely important. And for any pitcher, you come in the game, you get an extended listen to that walkout song. You know what I mean? Instead of, the batters, they get maybe 10, 15 seconds of their song. So Diaz picked an amazing song for his entrance, and you have to do that for your closer. You throw something up on the board, you got flames, you got fireworks, whatever it is, you're setting the tone, you're setting the mood for not only the stadium, but for Diaz. You want to get him loose, you want to get him pumped up. And yeah, he's extremely dominant. He had a down year, a couple years ago or whatever, and people were talking shit. Like, no, this guy's for real. And seeing the Mets fans do the chop, at Citi Field, I know Colin loved that. I got a kick out of that myself.
It's an absolute ass-kicking start to finish, and for the Braves, they've really been waiting for this moment to come in, and they'd had their momentum in the second half. And the Mets have just been hanging on and doing their damage without their star 1-2, and now you finally see it. It's Jacob deGrom struck out 12 in 5 1/3, and he now has the most strikeouts through 200 starts in any player in Major League history. And it's crazy. I went and looked at Nolan Ryan's. Nolan Ryan made his 200 start when he was 27 years old. It's unfortunate DeGrom's 34.
Yeah, it is. And we just need this man to stay healthy. And if just judging by, he's had some injuries here and there, but you look at the guy's velocity and how he's increased his strength and his stuff every year of his career, just about. And we've I think had conversations about that, how it's extremely rare for that to happen. It usually goes the other way. So he could pitch for another. If look at Scherzer, look at Verlander, he's in that type of category, obviously, and hopefully he can just maintain what he's doing. He seems to be really mobile, and that's something that guys lose over time. He's still got it. I say another 6-7 years from DeGrom. But yeah, no one's really gonna have those types of numbers and be able to compare with a guy like Nolan or Clemens or Randy Johnson. Some of those strikeout numbers, it seems unattainable in today's game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons and factors. The depth of the competition and the stress of each moment at bat, I think, is obviously different and keeps getting. The hitters in baseball are better than they were. Like, I'm not saying they're bigger, stronger, faster. I don't really like that argument. I think guys are like you could take a Willie Mays. Willie Mays plays in any era. I think that like the absolute top of the top. But what you're seeing is like the 25th guy on a major league roster is significantly better now than he was 10, 15 years ago at changing a game, 20, 30 years ago at being dynamic enough to get into a starting lineup. Before, dude, there's guys that had carved out major league careers that literally would not hit for extra base power ever, but they had careers because guy plays short, plays second, he's a good team guy, can sack bunt. Like just the dynamic and the way people have judged players to get to the big leagues, you have like more depth in the dynamic talent, but who knows if that makes it a better product in the long run. Like if you look at the Cubs roster, they have guys on the bottom of the roster that have like big time talent power, but they're not like refined ball players. We could go back. It's like this guy's never in 1,000 years would be considered polished enough to be in the big leagues, or I shouldn't say in 1,000 years, but you understand, like just the trajectory in which people say this guy is a major league baseball player and is qualified to play, I think has definitely changed, and it's changed quickly.
The training has changed so drastically. Like, look, Cooper started training about a year ago, like really training, moving weight and working on his agility, his foot speed. That wasn't a thing back then. Like kids at 10 were, they're playing sports, but they were focused really on their nutrition and how to increase their speed or their power. I mean, was there anybody doing that? Maybe, but every kid in Little League or Pee Wee football is getting some sort of specific training to help their sport. All of them. Like there's boot camps that go on around the neighborhood, around the Austin area, that kids were doing all summer long, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at like 6 a.m., training with high school kids. Like it's like clockwork. It's almost like if you're not doing that type of stuff, you're going to be behind. So that the level of training has increased so much that, but yeah, I do think kids are bigger, faster, stronger in a sense. The one thing that has kind of maintained over time, a specific time, the past several decades, is velocities might have gone up a tick, but if you look at like other sports and how records are broken in like track and field and all these other sports, like they're leaps and bounds above where they were, half a century ago. Why haven't we seen a guy throw 115, 120 miles an hour yet? Like if things were on that same trajectory as other sports, and I saw this in that fastball documentary, like the Jesse Owens, Olympic records that he set. I mean, those are like high school numbers now. Literally high school kids are running that fast. So if you would equate that to our sport, you would think that you would see somebody throw 112 or 115 miles an hour yet. Or maybe the human body just isn't capable of that sort of stress. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're seeing depth in the velocity. Like I think the number of guys that are carrying velocity deep, but as far as these anomalies, we could be a generation away from it. There's a kid from Tennessee that's throwing 104. I think what you're seeing is like the uniformity in training. Okay, so when I was at Illinois playing, I would have done anything that you would have told me would have added velocity to my game. So when I got there and they gave us the workout program, yes, anybody that would play with me, they would have said, Carl fucking followed that program harder and better and tighter than like anybody in the program at that time. Anything they told me to do, I was doing it. Part of that's because I was a walk-on like who needed to do that stuff. But the also thing was like deep down, this is my I'll do anything you guys ask me to do. I got significantly bigger and stronger. It never added to the mound. Like I got tougher. I had way more confidence my senior year. I didn't give a I would have pitched in like any circumstances. And that's how I had mentally developed myself through the training, but it had never paid off in any type of physical benefit. And then it's maybe half a decade later with the guys at Driveline that are doing the weighted velocity stuff where it's like proven methods and metrics. If that was going on when I was playing baseball, I would have been the first guy buying the plyometric balls and bringing them in there. And I think it's just like now that you know that stuff's out there, that it's not, and not to say just Driveline, but there's like proven methods to gain velocity, to make your slider sharper, not just go throw a bullpen and work on staying back. Like here's the exact drills that you guys are doing. Now here's where it has happened. This goes back to the Mets Braves series. Is You have a guy like Spencer Strider as a perfect example. I'm not saying he was made in a lab, but when you have a generation of pitchers or this large population of young pitchers that are very much developed in a lab, then you are having guys on the mound that are like disconnected from results. So Spencer Strider loses to the Mets and then says to the media afterwards, a lot of weird hits. They seem to be having a lot of luck right now offensively. That's great. It's August. He talks about exit velocities. He talks about just the randomization. And this is shit you would have never heard 10 years ago in the big leagues, but because of the data and the way these guys are developed, it's in their head that like, oh, well, I was making good pitches because that's what the data says.
It's not their fault because that's what everybody around them is talking about. Look, I mean, if you hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports. And if they're hitting good pitches, that's going to happen sometimes. But let's be more realistic about what happened. Like, if you didn't pitch well, you didn't pitch well, man. Like, and that guy's got an electric fastball. He's got amazing stuff. So, like, I don't know if he's making excuses. I would have had to see it. But no, I would see it quite often where somebody would get up there in the media and talk about how they hit great pitches and they threw it where they wanted to and it just didn't work out. Okay, once in a while a guy's gonna hit a great pitch and take you deep, but no, I don't like it at all. You know, I prefer to hear guys say, I didn't throw well tonight, you know, they got the best of me. I don't really care to hear the exit velocity talk or the defensive positioning. You got beat. Just, you know, take it on the chin and move on.
Now, comparatively, friend of the program, Dansby Swanson, met with the media, and he had this to say. I think the initial reaction, obviously, is we did not play well really in any phase. If you take out 2 innings of the second game of the series, if you take out that, we obviously did not play well in all phases of the game, really. And people who listen to this, you've heard Dansby Swanson on our show. That's an old school throwback guy who just wants to go out and win. And that's what we're talking about. The difference between, like, that's what Dansby Swanson has to say about dropping 4 out of 5 to New York versus Spencer Strider, a guy who put up 2 awesome starts in the second half, went out for his 3rd start against the Mets, and just frankly didn't pitch well. He didn't get out of the 3rd inning. I understand why he'd be frustrated, but, you know, it's like just different messaging about why you lose, why you win. Be interested. Spencer Strider is supposed to be front runner for National League Rookie of the Year, or in that conversation, I should say.
Yeah, he's very nice arm. Very nice arm. Yeah, and it was a frustrating series for the Braves. And obviously we love Dansby, but, you know, you can't take out 2 innings of the game. You can't, you know, like that's why you play 9. You might play great for 6, and then you play like shit for 3. That's why we play all of them. You see what I mean? And, you know, the results are what they are at the end of the game. But yeah, it just wasn't a great series for the Braves. They'll be all right. I mean, they're 6.5 back now, which is tough. And we've always said, you know, the Mets are taking this division, and climbing out of that hole is going to be hard for them now.
Colin, do you have a word on the Mets? I've decided to let your Colin's Corner be sponsored by Roman this week.
I mean, you guys summed it up pretty good. It was just awesome to see DeGrom back on the mound, take 4 out of 5 against the Braves. It's the biggest series this season so far. The Mets have shown that they're not falling out of this division, and they're not going to make it easy for the Braves to get back in it, just like Jake said. So yesterday was a special day. This weekend was a special weekend. This team is rolling right now. Like, it just feels good to be a Mets fan right now. And you don't get to say that often, but this team is special. And I love what Buck Showalter's doing.
Yeah, that's a reiterated message the entire season. And he's right. Buck's the man. It's got to be a good time to be a Mets fan.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, the vibes are riding high. Testosterone throughout the Mets fan base is there, and that's a good reason to bring up our friends over at Roman as we listen to Colin get rock hard about the Mets' future coming in the playoffs.
Ooh.
Testosterone is an important part of a man's body and health, but men's testosterone starts to deplete with age, which is why it's important you support it early. Signs of low T can include a decline in energy and stamina, weight gain, hair loss, and a low sex drive. Roman's testosterone support supplements were designed by real doctors to help men maintain the body's natural testosterone production. The daily supplement includes 6 nutrients to help support testosterone levels, bone health, and muscle development. Who wouldn't want to have the proper levels of testosterone in their body? Go to GetRoman.com/starting9 to get $15 off your first order of Roman T support. That's GetRoman.com/starting. GetRoman.com/starting. We've talked about Roman a lot at Barstool Sports. The stuff's very effective. In this case, we're talking T supplements. If you've used their swipes before, you know the effectiveness. Go check out the T supplements. Again, that's GetRoman.com/starting. GetRoman.com/starting for $15 off your first order. I'm rock hard for the Dodgers. Sorry, Padres. Juan Soto was mic'd up last night just in right field. Sad watching him see just bombs fly out. I mean, just all the hoopla, the trade deadline, and then it's like you still got to beat the Dodgers. It's tough, man. They're so good. They're so good.
Still got to beat the Dodgers. It looks really good on paper, but that's why you play the games. Look, that's okay. I think the Padres are still a huge force. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. But you're right, though. The Dodgers are the team to beat, and they've shown that year after year.
I mean, it's tough when they outscore you 20-4 in 3 games, and everybody's watching those games. I know that the Padres are going to take some time to get the group and the fluidity and just playing together and stuff. Now that you've got this big superstar, I don't think it clicks right away, but it is just. It's tough when you make quite literally the biggest trade in the history of Major League Baseball and you still can't say conclusively that you're the best team in your division.
It is tough. That's just how good the Dodgers are. That's how good the Dodgers are. I think the pitching for the Padres, I think Snell needs to be better. I mean, he's a Cy Young type of guy. He needs to pitch a little bit better. Musgrove's a stud. You can't give up 20 runs. Tough to win if you give up 20 in a series.
No. And opposite that, it's like the Dodgers are roll. The Yankees slump a little bit. They have to go to St. Louis and play a 3-game series on a weekend. You know Busch Stadium was just rocking for the Yankees to come in. And that Jordan Montgomery start was awesome. He had some shit to say. He was like, I've always been that good. He was not happy about that trade.
No, I didn't see his comments. What did he say?
He was basically just saying that, I'll pull it up exactly. Hold on a second here. I can't pull the exact quote. I know he's disappointed his fiance had medical residency plans figured out in New York and serious hard-hitting stuff that hits a guy like that where he's like, dude, my family, everything's getting uprooted right now. But Matt Carpenter came out, and there was a really cool story about Matt Carpenter coming to Jordan Montgomery and telling him how well he's going to fit with St. Louis, how much that fan base is going to embrace him. It's a great opportunity. You love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, I mean, Carp's a pro, and I know it was hard for him to leave St. Louis, but to kind of stick with it, and he was with the Rangers. He ended up opting out, and it couldn't have been a better fit for him to go to the Yankees. And already such a great team there, and he brings a lot. He brings a lot to the Yankees, and he loves being there.
It's cool to see, too. There was Nolan Arenado made a great play in his first start. You got to imagine, Jordan Montgomery's on the mound feeling a little bit different about what's in front of him with St. Louis. I obviously, you don't want to leave a team that's in first place and having this historic season with the Yankees, those guys in the clubhouse and everything. But, I mean, it's about as good as it gets as a pitcher, a guy who's working a contact and putting the defense in play. It's like, all right, here's literally one of the greatest third basemen of all time. Put up a good start. I feel like he's part of the story of the show for the rest of the year. I will have my eye on Jordan Montgomery. And could you imagine if he gets a chance to pitch in Yankee Stadium in a World Series game?
Man, the juices would be flowing for that one. Just, yeah. I can't imagine it. I absolutely can.
Opposite that, here's a great one for you. The Angels hit 7 home runs over the weekend. They lost a game. I'm willing to say that the Angels are going to finish behind the Oakland Athletics in the AL West standing as the most embarrassing 4-5 finish in recent memory.
Man, they're just not good at all. I just saw they did draft Ben Joyce, so maybe he can come up and save the team. He got drafted in the 3rd round.
Is that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
How does that guy get drafted in the 3rd round? I don't know. Maybe there's something we're missing, but he looks to me like a guy you could bring up in September and have him pitch for you in the postseason.
And for our,
I don't know what I'm missing.
For our non-diehards, Ben Joyce is the guy from Tennessee we were just talking about in the velocity development. You've seen this guy
throwing
in the air,
113.
Yeah, he's just an absolute beast. But how many other relief pitchers got drafted ahead of him? I want to see what that list of guys look like because you have to be just such a G if you got drafted fast, like higher than Ben Joyce.
Yeah, you must have been really good. I know there was the left-handed starter from Oregon State was in the middle of the 1st round. Let's see, I got it right here. Brock Porter. He's from Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, a high school kid, it seems like. We've got Dylan Lesko, right-handed pitcher out of Buford, Georgia. Looks like a high school kid. There's a bunch of guys. Brandon Barriera, a high school kid from Florida. Robbie Snelling, another high school kid. Jackson Ferris, the IMG Academy of Florida, left-handed pitcher. So, 7, 8, 9. He had a teammate, Blake Tidwell, right-handed pitcher from Tennessee. Quite a bit, man. Quite a few.
Dude, that's
crazy, I don't know.
Man. That ball's got to be straight. I would like to see, although it would be fun to see a guy like that go into the big leagues and just get his shit rocked for like a day or something, just like where it's like, see, he throws 103, been sitting around all college season seeing this guy on the internet, and it's like, nah, here's a bunch of dudes in like the middle of the Oakland Athletics lineup who just wouldn't care, you haven't even heard of, that would just tee off all over that guy.
I don't know. His shit ain't straight. I'll tell you that. I've seen him throw. You've seen him throw. His shit's moving. He's got a changeup and a slider. I don't know. Maybe health concerns. Okay, he was drafted 112. There's like 60 pitchers drafted before this guy. Whatever. I don't know. I'm not a scout. I'm not a cross-checker, a GM, so I'm sure they saw something there. But I think that guy needs to be pitching in the postseason this year.
Well, that'd be cool if and there was a rule where MLB was like, you have to have somebody you just drafted on every postseason roster, and they have to appear in like every other game.
That would be a terrible rule. It would ruin the game. No, just guys aren't ready for that. Most guys wouldn't be ready for that. And you wouldn't want to put a guy in that position to, like in the postseason, maybe bring him up in September on a shitty team, but postseason, I don't know.
Is that awkward in the postseason when those guys come up in September and the rosters get expanded? Are there guys that have been there all season that start to look around and are like, wait a second, are they trying to see if this guy is replacing me to be a base stealer?
That'll happen. Yeah, that'll happen, sure. But ultimately, the team is looking for the best players to help them win. And if it is, we brought in Quentin Berry, who's now, I believe he's the first or third base coach with the Brewers. But we brought him in to like be a stolen base threat for us. And sometimes somebody's got to go. Who's a utility guy or a bullpen arm that may or may not have been with the team the majority of the season. But hey, we need a guy to come in a big situation and score from second on a hit or go first to third or steal a bag. And at times that's more valuable than having a guy that you're probably not going to get into games unless, there are injuries. So guys do look around the clubhouse, especially even on losing teams when you're expanding the roster and there's young guys that are coming up, they're recent draft picks, and you got some older guys in the big leagues that are like, well, shit, now like this guy's going to play over me. It looks like your days are numbered, but that's the nature of the beast in professional sports.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I also think it's important. We're going to get to this Bill Goldberg interview, but before we do, I want to give some credit to Adley Rushman. We've talked about him a little bit this show and calling him out, but I don't know if you can do a better job debuting as a number one overall pick who's just been waited to get called up, is the bedrock of this team right now. And it seems like the Orioles fans are really buying into what's going on there. Every Orioles fan that I follow on Twitter that I'm like connected with, like the excitement is just through the roof for Baltimore. And there's so many of these lingering fan bases, not just in Major League Baseball, but across professional sports. And there's just something really wholesome, even not as an Orioles fan, but just seeing like what that does and invigorate the stadium. They're selling out now. The place is rocking. And it's cool that you can go back and of course it takes a team and all this stuff, but for Adley Rutschman to like step up, embrace it, and he just looks like a guy who's going to be around the big leagues for a while. You know, as a fan, it's hard to not watch that and feel like, all right, good, we got the Orioles going. Like, good, we got that team running. They're up and running. And it's an exciting team to follow, I think, for the rest of the season, see how this shakes up, especially with them trading Mancini and Lopez. And as they stand now, they're like a game out.
2 games out. 2 games out of the wild card. Rutschman it's very reminiscent of Matt Wieters, just a pillar of the team behind the plate, a guy who has a really good head on his shoulders, takes his job title very, very seriously. And, a quote that I saw of some of Wieters' advice to Adley was, play hard, play often, and play for your teammates. That's a very typical thing to hear from a guy like Matt Wieters. And, the Orioles are in really good hands, especially, with that position being filled by a guy like Adley for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it's a nice bright spot for the Orioles, and I would love to see them sneak into a wild card. I think that would be a really cool story. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, the opening round 3-game series, the one game they'd get at Camden Yards, or I got to figure out how the home away shakes up for the 3-game series with the wild cards. But I'm looking at the National League. I'm trying to figure out who the National League team is that's trying to do the Orioles stuff, and I don't see one. I think at this point, if you're a National League fan, and you have to accept that you're not a Dodgers, a Mets, a Padres, and I'm sorry, Braves fans, you guys just got spanked. You guys have some time to really think about what that home series is going to look like with the Mets, but it's slim pickings on the National League. The American League is still staying very much exciting to me, because especially when you see the Yankees get swept like they did, that should be a little bit of like it just should be like a little bit of a breathing room if you're an Astros fan. Obviously, like, this is an opportunity where they could keep moving forward and be the number 1 seed going into October, which would be crazy with how much the national media has sucked the Yankees' dick all year.
There's a couple teams that could be shuffled in and out of that National League wild card spot, though. I mean, Philly's right there, San Diego, Milwaukee, obviously. I mean, San Fran, I don't think you can completely count them out of it. So there's 4 or 5 teams that could be shuffled around. I mean, in Philly, they're 9-1 in their last 10. I kind of thought that they were, on the downslide and not even going to be able to recover and have a shot to make the postseason, but they're right there. They made a couple nice trades. So yeah, I think there's still some excitement within the National League wildcard spot. Maybe what happened to Atlanta kind of lights a fire under them a little bit. I mean, but it's a veteran, it's a winning culture there. I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about them unless they're playing the Mets.
Well said. I'm also interested for the Phillies. They could be, like, I know Bryce has been out since June, but they're 9-1 over their last 10. Like I said, they just scored 36 runs in 4 games against the Nationals. They've got another very, very winnable series coming up here against the Marlins, who just lost a series to the Cubs. So, the Phillies are one of these teams where the thunder is there in that lineup. Defensively, they're a little weak, but when you have Aaron Nola and Wheeler at the top of your rotation, I know the Mets are a better team over 162 games, but, Wheeler and Nola can go out and give you a game that, like, maybe Schwarber runs into a couple, and it's not as much like that as a matchup. If you're a Mets fan, maybe you get a little, like, we don't want to see the Phillies in the NLDS.
No, and we'll see what the timeline is like with Harper. I mean, I know he's fucking doing everything in his power to get back on the field. He'd probably play today if they would let him. Yeah, when you have Nolan Wheeler, those guys can legitimately shut out anybody. Like when they're on, I mean, Nola's command is just it's as good as it gets in the league. He's got great off speed. And Wheeler as well. Like, just kind of like they're kind of sneaky, really, really good. And I know baseball fans know who they are, but they they don't get as much love as they should. But yeah, if they're out there, I mean, they can pitch at or near the level of Scherzer and DeGrom. They just can't, and they're not as sexy of names, but when they're on, they're really hard to beat.
Speaking of hard to beat, I think it's appropriate to bring in our guest for today's show, Bill Goldberg, who at one time was 173-0 for the WCW. He's probably the biggest legend I've ever talked to in my life.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, we talked to him a little bit, and we've had a conversation that I wasn't like a diehard wrestling fan by any means, but I had an appreciation and like I had a fondness for guys like Stephen F. Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Goldberg, Nash, The Undertaker. Like you knew all these big names, and you were just kind of fans of them without even like being a diehard wrestling fan. And those guys don't really exist in today's wrestling. So yeah, it's great to talk to him. He's a good man, a great father, and look forward to talking to him again.
Yeah, so let's get to the Bill Goldberg interview, but first I want to thank our friends at Duer Jeans. It's time to simplify your wardrobe and the way you dress with Duer. They set out to create versatile staple items that can travel from a hike to work and even out to dinner. Less in the closet means less in the landfill, and less time debating what to wear means more time enjoying those adventures. Guys, that means performance denim, which is signature gusset for extended range of motion and flexibility. It's stretch fabric, max comfort. That's like if you guys are out, you guys are going for a little hike, you guys want to be active, but you also want to like feel good and have the moisture wicked away in the heat. We're talking about performance denim. We're also talking about the no sweat shorts. If you got stinky balls like me, stretchy and comfortable. They got the fabric for wicking, for warmth, zippered pockets, secure those. Like you don't want your phone, you want your debit card flopping around. How about tees? How about a 50% stronger than a regular tee with a neckline that won't get stretched out? That's very important, especially these hot, humid summer months when the fabric takes a beating. This is made with Tencel, a fabric that allows these tees to have maximum odor neutralization, moisture wicking, and leaves you cool and dry. And then, of course, if you guys are looking for something in the pants section, this fall, I'm telling you, my number one piece to add is the No Sweat Jogger. This is the signature piece, extended range, motion, and flexibility, stretchy and comfortable. Again, this is also made with Tencel, ultra light, moisture wicking, and antibacterial. Zipper thigh pocket, so important items don't get lost. Guys, discover the lightweight luxury of performance naturals. Whether you're a corporate climber or a mountain climber, take 15% off online at ShopDuer, D-U-E-R, ShopDuer.com, or in-store using code STARTING. Jake, I know you like the jeans.
If they can neutralize my odor, then they're really onto something. I got the package in a couple of days ago. I need to trial these on, but they're beautiful. The stretchiness and being able to maintain mobility in denim is like a huge, huge plus for me. So I'm really excited about it. I appreciate the product. And, like Carl's saying, get you some Duer jeans. Neutralize your odor.
ShopDuer.com. You guys won't regret it. Okay, so let's get to Bill Goldberg, the man who needs no introduction. Here we go. All right, we're in the interview portion of today's show. We're joined by the legend, Bill Goldberg. Both you guys are sleeveless. Bill, you look great. How's the body holding up? How you feeling, man?
First of all, I thought you said sleepless, and I fall in that category too. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. At 155 years old and what I've put my body through, the fact that I'm still walking on the earth is pretty amazing. So it's all good, man. Living life in Texas, loving it.
Amen.
Now, what are some things that you do to like stay healthy, stay mobile? Because obviously you're a big dude. I think we're the same height, 6'4". You probably got me by 45 pounds. you which is a good thing. You're massive. But doing what you've done your entire career, obviously you played football, you wrestled forever. You did some mixed martial arts type stuff, kickboxing. As you get older, it gets more difficult to get out of bed and move around. Do you have a routine every day? I know you still work out a lot, but are there little things that like yoga or Pilates that you'll mix in that might not be as mainstream just to feel good?
Well, being that pitcher, man, you certainly lobbed me a good one right there. I appreciate it.
100%, 100%.
Uh, ironically, today we're coming out with a partnership. Myself and a company called Hemp to Lab have developed these products called Gallant. And, man, I'm 55 years old. I put my body through absolute hell. I retired from the NFL because of lack of ability, and I tore my abdomen off of my pelvis. So I never thought I'd be doing much physical work right after football, let alone, you know, up until the ripe age of 55 years old. But I mean, we were young and we destroyed our bodies and did whatever we could do to get gigantic, as far as compound lifting. And I was with a coach yesterday, and ironically, we were talking about an old teammate of mine, Kevin Green, God rest his soul. And, things have changed. Supplementation has changed. Training has changed so much over the years. And I was talking to this trainer yesterday who I bring in town to train my son Gage. And I mean, Kevin and I were rooming together back when liver tablets were a big thing, right?
And
And
now they're big again,
they're big again,
right?
but you don't have to take like 80 of them a day,
Yeah.
like I did back in the day.
Yeah.
So I mean, the supplements are better, the dosages are different. Um, I think a lot of my collaboration with Gallant, with Hemp to Lab, had to do with my inability to walk around as a normal human being without just wanting to scream, pain wise, whether it's limping because of my knee or my inability to throw a baseball with my son because my shoulder's blown out. But whatever it may be, I'm not going to sit here and cry and bitch and moan about it. But it's a fact of life, especially somebody who's put their body through hell like we have. So, uh, a lot of less lower impact stuff. I still do some kickboxing stuff. Um, Active participation is what I'm all about. If I can burn calories fishing, I'm going to do it. Um, so I just try to stay moving, man, and try to. I lift every day. I certainly don't lift like I used to, but I just stay moving. The second that you stop and are sedentary, um, atrophy is going to set in, and you're going to be as worthless as the next guy walking this planet these days. So. Um, with a lower impact regimen with frequency of movement, which is daily, and these new products. It's a hemp based product line, and no THC. They're all everything's regulated and tested as such, food grade certified, all organic components. We control everything from seed to sale, so nobody touches anything that we do. We come up with the formulas. The company's led by a 15-year past executive for FedEx who was more than successful in all of his ventures. And anytime you associate yourself with anything or any entity, especially when it comes to health and what we've done in our lives, you want to vet them as much as humanly possible, and you want to make sure that they're the top of the heap. And if not, you don't want to associate yourself with them. And I truly believe I found the best. And whether it's communication, whether it's formulation, or whether it's distribution, or whether it's just the resume of the people involved, I'm very honored to say that today we're launching the product line Gallant. Go to madegallant.com and check it out. We got a bunch of today we actually have 10 free giveaways, and I believe what they do is they go online and fill out the form, and in the promo code put Jackhammer, and the first 10 people who fill that in get a nice little surprise, a piece of whether it's a piece of merchandise or whether it's a product itself. It's a great way to launch today, and I'm excited. I really am. Hey, if at the end of the day it makes me live 2 more weeks of my life, then I'm all in. So.
Well, so the information I know about it has evolved, and I think a lot of people thought that for pain relief, like you needed the THC, and that's not the case. And I chewed on a few of these gummies this morning. They got them right here. I'm gonna go ahead and throw another one down. These aren't gonna put me to sleep, are they?
Yeah, no, they're not going to put you to sleep. They'll just chill you out, man. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Well, I could use
Keep you
that.
even
And
all day.
good, good. And I'm sure we've all taken pain pills post surgery or injuries, and we don't want that. The negative side effects of all that is kind of pushing people away from that and into something
Yeah,
that's
like
a
where do
little
you
bit
begin
safer.
with negative side? Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
no
I mean, it
question
just
about it,
the
man.
list goes on and on.
Every professional athlete through the since the beginning of time has dealt with pain, and whether it's covering it up or whether it's continually putting yourself in a state of such that you feel no pain, none of it's really good for you. And truly, the pain pills are just a mask. It's a temporary fix, right? And so, in all honesty, since I retired, Advil's been my best go-to because it actually reduces the inflammation instead of covering up the pain itself. So it deals with the issue instead of just covering up. That's why I like these products, because not only do they help with the pain and don't cover it up, but they heal you at the same time. So that's a huge advantage to taking this route. And I think, quite obviously, on your liver, it's a lot more forgiving.
Yeah, that's where the Advil comes in with me because it's not like a candy coating. I just don't. Advil just has a good taste going down. So you're like, should I have two? You know what? I'm gonna have the third. And to your point, the liver stuff, it's not good news. So okay, I have a confession. I did my research, Bill. I had to. You are a living legend. To describe you as a superhero in my childhood would be a gross understatement. So I was just recently watching a documentary published by A&E, very informative. If you haven't watched it before, I obviously recommend guys go check it out, especially the Goldberg fans that are joining us. Something that stood out to me in the doc, and then when we started talking before we started the interview, you said a football player, something about golfing and a football player. So to me, it seems like you really, at your core, you're still that kid from Tulsa, Oklahoma, smashing dudes' face in as a football player. Has that left you, even now as we talk about pain recovery and stuff, to this day when you're working out, you see that kid, in the 70s just beating dudes up in Tulsa?
I'll always be that kid. I will always revert back to him. I continue to try to drum him up to get my son ready for his first day of football practice today. Yeah, man. Innately, I'm a meat-headed defensive lineman till the day I die. I love being that guy. I enjoy being that guy. It makes me extremely happy walking the streets being that guy. I'd like to be the antithesis of that guy, quite obviously, in proper situations. But yeah, man, I like to tell everybody I'm not an actor, I'm not a wrestler, I'm a football player, I'm a D lineman, and I own that, and I'm proud of that, and I will be that person to the day I die with a big smile on my face.
So then, really interesting in your transition from football into professional wrestling. It's like maybe around 29, 30, you go to the WCW power plant, or like kind of the training facility to get recognized. And so it's kind of funny to think about now in today's internet age. Like if you wanted to get seen back then, you literally had to physically show up and fight and wrestle other dudes. Where today, if you want to be seen, you could be popular on the internet. Do you think that if you had to go back, like if you could do it today, do you think there's more of an advantage? Or are you like, no, the way I did it back then, with or without the internet?
I think, man, that lobotomizes me just thinking about that, how I would approach it today. But I wouldn't have changed a thing. I really wouldn't have, man. I mean, I tell people all the time, if I could have sat down and forecasted my future for the next 10, 20, and now 30 years, I couldn't have, as a script writer, I couldn't have done it any better. I mean, from my career to meeting my wife on a movie that she thought she was working with Jeff Goldblum and it was Goldberg. I mean, shit happens for a reason, man. It really does. I'm a firm believer of that. So I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world.
You'll be happy to know my cousins and I watch Santa Sleigh every Christmas Eve together. It's like in our rotation before we watch Die Hard, we put Santa Sleigh on. It's a laugh factory. Any more like what were the movie offers like after Longest Yard?
Oh man, they were sporadic. Hollywood is really not something that I ever uh, planned on doing by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I'm just a D lineman, man, that got an opportunity. And anytime I can go out there and do some stuff, that's fine. But man, making the transition to Texas here 3 years ago from San Diego, I mean, we've got possible series that need to be shot in LA 3 days a week, and I'm toying with that in my mind. But um, you talk about getting into the wrestling business when I was, about 30 years old, and everything was accelerated for me because I really couldn't, and I really couldn't take advantage of the moment because I'd already been there in that moment before, and it was a business decision, and I really didn't have a lot of fun doing what I did. I just did things to, I don't know, to maybe fill that void, and yeah, it was all of it was to fill the void of football not being in my life anymore. So I'm not a Hollywood guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'd rather be out here hanging out with my Longhorns and fishing and shooting guns, truthfully.
That seems like, for me, not knowing you personally as well, that wouldn't appear to be the case just from seeing kind of what you do. It seems natural. Is that like, do you have to go to a different place to kind of have that energy and that persona? Like, did you have to was it all acting, or is that just kind of like, is that kind of you a little bit, or was it hard for you to get to that point?
You mean acting?
Just the
acting or
fire.
wrestling?
Yeah. Well, even in the ring, like you're fired up and the energy
No,
and
man.
just,
No.
you're putting on a show.
In the ring was the biggest and best outlet I ever could have had. It was my drug at that time. Because the only thing I ever aspired to do and play was professional football. I got the opportunity for a short period of time. I fulfilled a dream of mine, but it was definitely, I didn't get satiated by any stretch. I was lucky to get 4 years in the league, but I tore my abdomen off my pelvis. I was put on the supplemental draft list the first year that Carolina and Jacksonville were out. Carolina picks me. I end up asking to be cut because I was in no physical shape to go up when, physically I was kind of going down. So I got a taste of it, which maybe made it worse for me. But, I've always lived to be that guy. So wrestling was my outlet, and it was the way, ironically, for me to still tackle people on the football field and be as aggressive as humanly possible, and truly be even more aggressive than I can be on the football field because it's acting to an extent. But I was everything you see in the ring, everything you see me do in a movie, barring one or two things, is me. It's an extension of me, and all of these ways, all of these things that I have done, whether it's being the donut maker, or the chief donut maker for Dodge, or being Santa Claus for Dodge, or being Santa Claus in the movie. Shit, I got to kill people. I got to burn tires. I get to do cool shit all the time. So
Yeah.
it's just me. It's just me being me, man. And the wrestling, I ramped it up a tiny bit, but I'll be honest with you, I'm that guy. It's just you got to bring it out in different situations. You are too. I mean, we all are. We all, have that animal in us. When you can ramp it up, everything that
That's a
we do
fact.
in the public eye is truly our. We're wearing it on our sleeves. You multiply it, it's just a little bit different.
Was there something along the way though where you said, no, that's too far for me? Like, obviously there's a time you beat up a limousine, but like, was there something where like Eric Bischoff or Vince McMahon came to you and you're like, no, that's just too much. I'm not doing that.
Not really. I can't ever remember something like that. I mean, I wasn't the acrobat by any stretch of the imagination, so they didn't ask me to jump off a building and land on somebody, and do that kind of crazy stuff. I like to think that my physicality in the ring and in close proximity out of it was violent enough to trade out for somebody doing something as stupid as jumping off a roof, to get eyeballs. But it really wasn't stuff that I really turned down. I just didn't want to do any comedy. There's some characters that I'm really sorry. I don't care about. I don't care. There's certain things that you just don't do when you're a monster. So, and not doing those things continued to separate me from other normal characters because I never ever wanted to be like anybody else.
Yeah. So then, could you take me? I've heard this story before. I haven't heard your side of it, but there's like this famous story of Hulk Hogan calling Eric Bischoff and being like, "I have to lose to Bill Goldberg." And you get in the ring with him, and at the time, Hulk Hogan, obviously like the most accomplished guy to get in the ring, and you're saying he's like leading you along the way, or it's kind of like a dance or something. Is that am I retelling this right? Like where he's kind of holding your hand and telling you like this is how you're gonna beat me tonight, or
Well, I mean, usually this isn't like breaking the silent code by any means nowadays, especially with the internet. But yeah, usually you show up to work, you figure out who you're working with, you figure out the dance, you go through the routine to an extent. I mean, Jake, you know, I mean, it's there's certain guys that can go out and do it with their eyes closed, like completely. There's certain people who have to go through a certain routine. There's other people who have to, invest a lot of time in training this dance to be able to perform it. But I mean, I'd only been in the business 6 months. I'd walk into Hogan's dressing room, and I'm like, okay, what would you like to do, Mr. Hogan, sir? Anything you want, sir. And he's like, don't worry about it, kid. We'll call it in the ring. I'm like, what? We'll call it in the ring. There's only 50,000 people out there. We're on national television. I know you know what you're doing, but I mean, I don't know shit. I didn't know anything. I was like a baby in that business. And so it's just kind of terrifying knowing that you have to be this monster. But you're nervous as hell and you don't know what's coming next. And I think a lot of what he did was set me up for the first headlock, and he pulled me in, and he's got icy hot all over his boobs, which means that I can't see the rest of the match. So whether that
did
was
he set that up on purpose, or did he always have icy hot there?
I mean, you could look at it both ways because when you're of accelerated age, you try to get ready as best as possible. So I can see that being a routine of his, but I can also see, guys like Flair and guys like Kurt Hennig and the old school guys that would really rib you. I mean, you remember back in the day when baseball was a little bit different than it is now. All sports were different than they are now. Especially
when you could still mess with people without getting in trouble with the media or whatever.
Well, yeah.
So like so when he set that up, you think he was like, all right, I'm gonna see what this young guy's got. I'm gonna see if he can handle the pressure.
Yes, I think there was a little bit of both in there, but it was, hey man, this dude was like God. He still is in the business. He set it up for guys like me to make a living. And, guys like him and guys like Flair and guys like Bret Hart and guys like, that have been around a long period of time, they can do it with their eyes closed because it's something that's so natural to them. So, I mean, you had one person at one end of the spectrum and one at the other. We met in the middle. I was lucky enough to do it in front of kind of my home crowd. I had the Falcons come out and save me afterwards. I mean, it was poetic justice. It was the coolest night of my athletic life. But for reasons unbeknownst to other people, they thought it was because I won the belt or the title, but it had nothing to do with that. As appreciative as I was in that moment for the wrestling business, oh no, the coolest part were having my teammates come out and want to be me because I wanted to be them the rest of my life, so.
Pretty cool you've been able to bring your son back into that too. Sorry. I mean, it's really cool that you brought that. Now your son, even though he's going through his own athletic career, he got a personal taste of seeing dad do that and still gets a chance to see like exactly the impact you had on. I was 11 when you were doing this. So you still are like, I mean, it's just like you're a living God to me. So to be able to bring that back to your kid, and that's something Jake and I have talked a lot about this show, is that relationship and just like passing that on.
Well, that means everything to me. Thanks for being a fan very much. I can't thank you enough, man. I did a lot of hard work and I tried to give back. And I wanted to be that superhero for kids, and there weren't that many people to look up to, and to look up to a professional wrestler. That's kind of an oxymoron. But I wanted to be that guy. I'd go on Maury Povich. I'd do the Make a Wishes. I'd be there for everybody. Hell, I just spoke at the Maccabi games in San Diego, man, in front of 2,000 little Jewish kids, from 12 to 16 years old. That's an honor that's been bestowed upon me that I can never explain how cool it is. So as fictitious as the business is and as set up as it is, it still meant a lot to me, and it was my way to get to kids and get to people and try to impart some wisdom upon them, because football had been taken away from me, and that was my conduit, that was my vehicle. So I just kind of got out of a Trans Am and got into a freaking Dodge, Viper, and just went nuts. And I realized that as I was doing my Hall of Fame speech, that my dream had been to be in the NFL Hall of Fame, but I truly believe that I was able to reach more people, more kids, by being in the WWE Hall of Fame. As an athlete, that sucks for me because I wanted to be the man on the football field. But as a human, it's extremely rewarding to me that I was able to accomplish something to a point where I could make a difference in a young kid's life. So to me, that's gold.
Do you do any consulting or talent evaluating for wrestling today? Because wrestling's changed in the sense of I don't know really the big names in the game anymore. It used to be like it was Stone Cold, it was you, it was Undertaker, it was Hogan, it was Mark Henry, it was Nash. Like I knew every one of them, even though I wasn't like a diehard wrestling fan. What's the state of wrestling like today in your mind?
And I think it's exponentially different. There are not your mega superstars like there were back in the 90s, early 2000s when we were doing the Monday Night Wars. The reason for it, I don't know. Am I helping anyone consult at WWE? I'm still under contract at WWE till the end of the year. Uh, Honestly, man, from a guy who 99% of the wrestling fans say can't wrestle, I think the last person that they're going to ask to consult anybody would be me. But I truly believe that the state of wrestling needs a lot of help. Um, it's too much drama. It's too much talking and not enough Brock Lesnar, getting in a tractor and picking up the edge of rings and dumping, Roman Reigns. I mean, that shit right there is what got us on the map. That's what got us to beat Monday Night Football every freaking Monday. Doing stuff outside of the box, cool, badass guy shit. Well, the world is a different place.
All these monsters now, the Lesners, like guys like you, they're trying to do something else first, right? Kind of like you did, kind of like The Rock did, and it didn't work out, and now he's the most popular guy on the planet. So maybe that's part of it. Like guys are still trying to play in the CFL, the XFL, trying to make it to the NFL, and maybe if it doesn't work, maybe some of them will transition. But man, you're right though. Being able to see a guy like Lesnar or someone like yourself in the ring again, shit, that would bring me back to wrestling.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's different. It's just totally different, man. It's a lot of, it's quite indicative of who we are these days, of the kids these days, of popularity and what makes you popular. And, it's not what it used to be by any means.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that as like an old disgruntled man. I deal with kids every day, and it's a completely different freaking world, man. It's completely different. So
Yeah.
we have a responsibility. You sent me a video of your son, doing that flag football stuff, man, romping it, kicking some butt. Today, my son's starting football as an incoming junior. We just got rid of baseball, got done with baseball 10 days ago. That was the entire summer.
And he's on the Texas 12, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Man, that's a badass organization.
Well,
And you know
coming
how
from
it is
you,
here in
thank
Texas,
you.
man. They can really play. My son's playing for the Outlaws, Lake Travis Outlaws. Really nice team. We're in the process of bringing some new kids in. It's just tough, parents. Every parent thinks their kid's the best on the team, and it's getting to that point. And with Gage, you've already experienced it. Every kid can't play shortstop. Every kid can't pitch every game. Sometimes you're gonna have to sit the bench. So we're having that discussion with parents. And it can be uncomfortable, and I tell them, look, I sat the bench at times. I wasn't always the best player on the team. So we're going to have to, it's not all about you and your son. It's about the team. And we want to win. And you know how it is here in Texas. If you're not trying to win, somebody else is going to kick your ass.
Absolutely, and it's big team, little me, and it's the qualities that we learned when we played that should be prevalent these days, and they're not. The fact is that sports gave me everything as a kid, 1,000%. Every life lesson I have learned has been through sports, and when you try to level the playing field in sports, that's so unrealistic because I don't see anyone leveling the playing field in life, right? And so at the end of the day, sports for me now is all about kids and their development and turning them into good, upstanding human beings, right? Later in life. The way that it's turning now, sports is not producing those people like it used to, because the standards are different, because the expectations are different, because the training's different, and because the coaches are complete. Everything's different. I see so much complacency now. It's not even funny. It's great to be a part of it, but you don't need to win. Bullshit. You need to try your best 100% every single time you do an athletic endeavor, right? Because it teaches you there's always somebody that's going to win. There's always somebody that's going to lose in life, right? And it's not always going to be sugar coated, and people always can't hand you everything. And I mean, we live in a very affluent neighborhood, man. But it still doesn't. It still means that you have to keep people accountable, and you have to keep your kids accountable. And if you don't instill these values that sports gives us early in life, then you're doing them an injustice. And then it truly, and it's not about me as a parent. It's not about you, Jake, as a parent. It's not about anybody as a parent. It's about the long-lasting legacy that we can leave to our children, so that they can be an extension of what we fought so hard for our entire life. And I'm very proud to say that my wife is a wonderful human being, and we've raised a pretty damn good kid. And I can't wait to, leave my legacy with him and see what kind of legacy he leaves in an indelible impression upon the earth. But it's just, even in Texas, man, I'm seeing a little bit of complacency in high school sports, and it's disheartening. But I think a lot of it has to do with where you are, and a lot of it has to do with who you are. And I'm not going to put up with it anymore. I'm not. If I see it and it's my son, that's one thing. If I see it and it's somebody else, I'm going to say something about it, because that's my opinion, and I believe that's the right way to go.
Has that been an easy transition to be a parent in sports then? I'm sure you've got dads coming up to you at practices and asking you for autographs or taking pictures or something where you're like, hey, that's over here. I'm dad mode now. Like, that's always been a funny thing to connect with Jake about since we started the show, is just kind of like, you're showing up to coach. I went out and I watched Jake coach one of his big tournaments in Omaha, and just seeing like the passion and intensity it has with the kids, and being there with the first base coach and writing the lineup cards together. Like, but that's a place I imagine like you have to work to get to. Was that easy for you after, as you're getting out and like, working with Gage?
I'm still trying to figure it out. There's no question. I don't know. I know what my role is, but I don't know how to accomplish being the best person in that role by any means. And as far as going to practices and going to games and I've been around this area for almost 3 years now, and people are very used to seeing me at every athletic endeavor because I haven't missed a practice, I haven't missed a game. I can't do that, right? And so I'm just like going to a baseball game and getting a hot dog now. I'm normal protocol. There's Goldberg. Oh, you can hear him now, But um, it's different sometimes, but people have been extremely respectful, and it's big team, little me, man. I'm there for the kids, not just my son, for the whole team, firing them up before the game, and I don't know, man. I'm an old school soul, and I'll always be set in my ways, and I'm a perfectionist, and I like to win, and I like to be the best at everything, and I like to put the work in, and I'm just old school. And there needs to be much more of that these days. And whatever I can do to spread the word, then I'm fully in.
Goldberg, and explain the importance to, there's a lot of parents and young athletes watching the show. Explain the importance of being a multi-sport athlete and not just being specific to one thing. What have you seen from Gage and your experience in sports that tells you playing 1, 2, 3 sports as a kid is beneficial to their athletic career as they get older?
Well, it's beneficial to them in their life, period, too. So it's being a multi-dimensional human, whether it's cognitively, knowledge-wise, or athletically. You always should be multi-dimensional. Um, I mean, I played baseball, basketball, and football in high school. Tried to juggle all three of them. Quite obviously, I wasn't very good at a couple of them. Uh, I loved baseball. My brother got drafted out of high school, by the Reds as a catcher. Um, it's very important to cross train, especially these days. Especially here in Texas, it's amazing. Baseball's huge. Obviously, everyone knows football's huge too, but baseball's got a pretty good damn foothold, especially here where I live. And I have not met one coach, whether it was a baseball or football coach, that wasn't in the corner of the athlete that was a multi-dimensional athlete that played both and even played three. A lot of kids try to run track at the same time. Um, it's for so many reasons they're great. It gives you options. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. It makes you a
Yeah, you don't
better
get burnt
athlete.
out.
I believe if you train properly and train smart, um, I don't see any negative. Well, I do see negative because I'm about to experience it. If you can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Um, but if you separate your eggs too finely, then I believe both entities, both sports, kind of suffer.
Sure.
So there's a fine line in putting 75% of your focus towards this and then 25 in this. Well, was the 25 enough to keep that going? And is the 75 enough
Sure.
to be present in that sport? So, I mean, I'm dealing with it right this second. You know, thank God Gage got picked to be one of the captains next year for his baseball team. Well, freaking football starts today, and we're talking about baseball yesterday.
And they're going to play in
So
the
I
fall,
love
I'm
his
assuming.
passion,
Yeah,
but they
they're
need
probably going to play
focus. They
tournaments.
need to understand that, going. I don't know, man. You asked me that question, and I'm trying to figure out my answer right now
I
in
know.
real time.
I know.
Because my son loves baseball more than anything on the planet. I mean, truly, almost as much as eating. But um, he loves it so much, and I want to hear him talk about it 24 hours a day because he's got that gleam in his eye, and he's happy and he's successful and it's cool and it's fun for him. But football's dangerous. And this kid's only played football. This will be his third year of playing tackle football. Now, we're in Texas, and he's
Yeah.
16 years old, and he's playing against kids who next year will be playing for major college football teams. And there's an issue with concussions. There's always an issue with physicality Are you prepared? Well, for a kid that's 6 foot, 200 pounds, and that's starting middle linebacker for champion Bernie Chargers next year or this year, this week, it's a daunting task. It really is, and so it's tough to go from. I think it's easier to go from football to baseball than it is from baseball to football. But then again, it's really tough to ever put baseball down because the people that he just played summer ball with, they won the 16U, Texas tournament down in Tomball. They're playing fall ball, right?
Yeah, it doesn't
So he
stop.
sees
It
his
does.
teammates
It keeps
playing
going.
fall baseball, continuing to do their thing because it was a
And he wants to
great
play.
team. They had, a good amount of success, and now he's transitioned into football. So it's a tug of war. Truthfully, at the end of the day, it's not about performance. I just don't. We just don't want him to get hurt.
Yep.
I'm with you.
I don't care about.
Yeah.
I don't care if he ever plays football again. I don't want the kid hurt. If he wants to play baseball the rest of his life, hey, go for it. I'm good with that. It's not like people aren't making tons of money in a sport that's not nearly as physical as playing professional football. But it's just being smart. That's all it is, and it's to have a multi-sport athlete. He wants to go to college and play both sports. This kid.
See, now that's where the delicate balance comes in, because the choice at a certain level, when you get to the highest level of competition or you climb, then the choice starts to impact you negatively because the people you're competing with will not have a choice.
No question.
You're going to get, and so that's where the duality comes in. But it's really the passion. But passion can override any of this, where it's I want to prove to everyone that I can do both. The Bulldogs, Georgia Bulldogs, what do we say? Baseball, football for the youngster? Would you want to see him go to your alma mater? Or
I talked to Coach Golf yesterday, who was my head coach, who took over for Coach Dooley, and he asks me point blank, "How's your son doing?" I said, "He's doing great. Playing football? Well, Coach, is he breathing? Yeah, he's playing football. Is he good? Well, this is my ex-head coach asking me point blank if my son is good or not. And I could be a parent, I could be Goldberg, or I could be a smart parent who is Goldberg and say, you know what, Coach, this is his third year of football. He's got it in him. He's been training with Derek Johnson up in Austin, twice a week for God knows how long. He's been training with Chuck Smith in Atlanta at the pass rush camp, and he went to Georgia and did some training up there. And we've been doing everything and anything that we can. Coach Cav, this guy I brought in, he's just on his way to the airport now. We wanted to prep Gage. It was like cramming for the SATs. Gage had to leave here at 5:45 this morning, and I think Coach Cav was the last one that said something to him. So as parents, we just want to be responsible. As parents who played sports, we'd love to have people follow in our footsteps if that's truly what they want to do. So in an extremely 20-minute long dissertation to answer a question, I think playing multiple sports in high school is absolutely the thing to do. If you have the ability to do it, and if you have the time to do it, and you have the talent, most importantly, to be realistic in your goals of following up maybe later in life with both, that's a hell of an athlete. I played with Dion when, he played with the Falcons and then played with the Braves in the same day. That's an unbelievable accomplishment. But, at what point does one passion take away from the other to the point where, your qualities drop down and you can't even qualify or make it in D1 or make it to a college level at that sport? It's a tough decision. It really is, because, it's hard enough for some people to make one sport, let alone two. That two is ridiculous, but doesn't mean we're not going to try.
But this is like the most important question I personally had. I wanted to know about you want to talk about changing gears here, Goldberg. we're completely changing gears here. I gotta know the tat, like the barbed wire tattoo. If Gage comes home tomorrow with a matching tattoo, are you happy with him? Are you mad at him? Is this something that you're like? Are you going to add to it in the long run? Could you talk to me a little bit about the tattoo? It looks great. To be honest with you, seeing it here in person.
But I appreciate it, man. It was a spur of the moment thing back in the day. You know, I can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery, unfortunately. I'm tainted, but it's all good. I think I paid my dues. Um, yeah, that's something I haven't even thought of. If he comes home with a tattoo at 16 years old, I know his mom would rip his skin off. But hey, at the end of the day, we want him to be an individual. We don't want him to follow in anyone's footsteps, not mine included. Um, there's a lot of pressure in being the son of somebody who's in the public eye, and we just want him to be happy. That's it, man. To happy. If he doesn't ever play a sport and he's the happiest kid in the world, I'm great with that. Sports, although, like I said, the huge importance in sports is not only the confidence it gives you, but the life lessons that it teaches. So,
Amen. Amen. This is a post note. We're waiting for Jake. I think Jake, something popped out. He wanted to come back and just say one last thing so we can tighten up the interview and wrap it. So I think that was like my last. I wanted to talk about the tattoo. But while we wait for Jake, I suppose, is there a portion of you that would go back if you could get in a time machine and go back to your rise? Is there anything you would do differently? Like when you're 173-0, would you speak up and say, I don't want to lose to Kevin Nash tonight? Or is there something where it's like, maybe I would have spent more time technically training before they accelerated me into being like this international phenomenon?
no, I wouldn't have changed anything, truly, looking back on it. As far as the technical training is concerned, I just didn't want to be anybody else. Everybody else got there and they worked on chain wrestling. And they did this move and that move, and you knew what was coming next, and it was entertaining, but it wasn't freaking jaw dropping, and it didn't keep you on the edge of your seat like a Mike Tyson fight, and that's what I wanted to emulate. That's exactly what I wanted to duplicate, was the feeling that I got when I watched Mike Tyson walk to the ring, and they gave me the ability to do that, in a short period of time. I wouldn't have changed it. I mean, they beat me on my birthday, man. That sucked. Absolutely sucked, the big giant. So, yeah, I would have said, let's do it like the next day, not my birthday. But
Well, was it tough? I guess no. I'm about to ask you an offensive question. I was going to say having a birthday right next to Christmas must have been tough as a kid in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You're going to come back and say, "Hey, dude, I already had Hanukkah. I had 7 days of presents. Then you had a little time off, and then you're coming back for the birthday. So you might have had the ultimate cheat code there."
yeah, I know I don't know, man. It was all coupled in the same time period of the year, and I got no presents, no attention, no nothing except for the month of December, man. It sucked, but it is what it is, man. We all
Yeah.
we play the hand that we are dealt.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I logged approximately like 1,700 hours one winter just spearing people with you in WCW versus NWO Nitro in what could be described as the greatest winter in a young Barstool Carl's life. Jake, it's like those are the moments, Jake. We grew up in that same time era. It was just the best.
It was unbelievable, and like I was saying before, the superstars in the wrestling game back then, I miss that. I really do. You were an idol to me, you and Stone Cold, and I was talking to my builder, who's actually, I think they're working on my internet now because it's garbage. But he was saying, you know what? It was either Stone Cold or Goldberg. And was that kind of your experience with people? Like it was either one or the other?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're two completely different, like, human beings, but we also at the same time couldn't be more alike. I don't. That's an extreme oxymoron, but it's true. Our characters were completely different. but who we are as individuals, in a way, we're quite similar. We want to go out and perform and do our thing, but when we're not out there, we just want to be on our ranch. We just want to chill. We just want to be invisible. Um, he's a really good dude. He actually is responsible for us being in the location that we're in. Ultimately, the decision that we made had a lot to do with his influence and him being around this area. And hey, man, to back in the day to have been compared to a Steve Austin, um, being a young little Jewish boy from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who wasn't in the business very long and who never aspired to be in that spot, that was pretty damn cool, you know. But yeah, those characters are gone as far as I'm concerned. There's a couple of them around these days, but it's all in the script writing. It's all in the building of the human being. It's building of the character. It's just what doesn't seem as if the work has been done to put those people in the spots that we were in back in the day. So it's a different place, man. I don't know what these kids are thinking these days.
Man, well, hey, I've got one more. I've got one more thing for you. I know you're a Dodge guy, and I love the content that you create, and I love that you're into cars. We're obviously both into firearms, but would you hold it against me if I told you I'm a Ford guy?
No, man, I've got the coolest Ford in the world in my garage. The Lawman Super Boss. It's the only automatic Boss 429 in the world, and my wife
Okay.
drives a 2017 Super Duty turbo diesel. That's a pretty fast truck. I mean, I can beat it in our
Okay.
Willys, but other than that, as she's yelling at me, no, man, no. I love cars. Period.
Okay.
Just because
Yeah.
Dodge is that much better than Ford, I mean, I can't say it all the time, but it's all good. Cars are cars.
Yeah. So cars are cars. I'm glad to hear you say that. I love them all. I just kind of grew up with giant Mustang fan. I just put an order in for the new Raptor, which I'm really glad they're going to finally put the V8 back in it and compete with that TRX you got.
Yeah, they need the V8, but hey, you guys cornered the market for 15 years on that vehicle, right? And I mean, you did a hell of a job. And the reason why the V8 went away was because there was no competition. Now there's competition. So it helps guys like us who are taking advantage of the fact that there's a horsepower war going on, and everybody wants to go electric. So I mean, it's a weird world, but taking advantage of it at this time. Dodge is coming out with like a 900 horsepower Challenger coming up soon. So I mean, it's crazy times. But as a car guy who's been working on a garage for 3 freaking years, I'm excited, very much so.
Yeah, me too. I think that electric cars are cool, but I need that sound, and I know you do too.
100%.
I gotta have
When you
that.
get that Raptor done, bring it down here. We'll meet halfway up, man. We'll have a beer and do some range work and have a little bit of fun, man.
I'd love to do that. Absolutely. Hey, thanks for your time, man. Really. And I'd love to get together, do a little baseball,
Definitely.
and all that good stuff, man. Yeah, I'd love to work with
100%.
Gage
If
and
if
see him
I can
play.
ever help your kids in football or anything like that, anything we've got down here, man, just let us know, dude. It's an honor and a privilege, and let's hook up for sure because we're just hanging out right now.
What's that
Done.
website one more time, Bill?
MadeGallant.com. GALLANT.
And here we go. Here's these CBD gummies right there.
Nice.
If you're watching on YouTube, they haven't put me to sleep yet,
No, but
so we'll see what
they
happens.
made you chill, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, thanks, brother.
You
We'll
got
talk
it.
soon,
My
Bill.
pleasure. You guys, Jake, take care. Keep in touch, man. You guys need anything, let me know. And thank you guys greatly.
All right, that's Bill Goldberg, and I just love any part of the conversation where he was just tapping into being a monster and just like that's who he is at his core. He's a monster.
Yeah, he was talking about how we've all got that inside of us, like that primal instinct, that animal instinct, and he's right. And he showcased it for years and years and years, and can't believe that he was in the ring as recent as a year or so ago. Just incredible. And it's nice to be able to see him be able to still walk around on his own 2 feet and not in a wheelchair after what he's put his body through.
Oh, it's no joke, dude. Like, there's clips of him out there getting work on, and it's daunting to see and think about how much physical activity and beating that guy's taken over the years. It's also cool just, though, like, to connect on the human side and see, like, he's talking about just, like, being a good dad. He doesn't want his kid to get injured. It's really interesting to hear that a guy who's put himself through all that is like, no, I just want to make sure my son doesn't have to, as long as he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you want to do anything you can to protect your kids, and when you let them do certain things, football being one of those things, there's always risk, and it can be scary, but you also don't want to restrict and prevent them from doing certain things that they love or are passionate about. So it's a hard thing to decide on, and I want Cooper to play football as long as he wants to. And hopefully, in the way football has changed, I mean, the instruction is much more detailed and specific than it was when I was young playing football. It's like, there was no intro to pads and to tackling. It was just like, okay, here's your equipment, strap it on, and let's start knocking each other out. So, yeah, I mean, you never want to see your kids get hurt, but it's hard to tell them that they can't play a sport,
Yeah, I'm with you too. You brought up, like, I'd be so dialed into wrestling if they could give me somebody like that again. Like, if there's somebody, he was water cooler talk, and that's coming from a guy who wasn't at a water cooler in 6th grade, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, you went to baseball practice, and it was the boys in outfield, like, shagging flies, like, yo, did you see Goldberg last night kill Booker T? Like, yeah, dude, crazy, right? Crazy. Have you ever thought about combat sports?
Yeah, I mean, I do some jiu-jitsu and some boxing stuff, but I mean, nothing like competitive. I just like it for the mental and physical challenge. I think jiu-jitsu is probably the most difficult type of cardio that I've ever done, because when you're trying to prevent another grown man who's your size or bigger from doing dangerous things to you, it's very, very exhausting. It's a humbling experience. It teaches you discipline and self-control, but it also allows you to develop a set of skills that can help you avoid potentially dangerous situations. And like I've told you before, I don't look for violence, but I'm not scared of it if it happens. So, in being able to restrain somebody and put them in some sort of submission rather than having to, fist fight, it could potentially save you a lot of trouble and harm, and maybe save someone's life. So, I highly recommend jiu-jitsu to anybody who's, has thought about it in the past and is maybe a little hesitant to get into it because they're nervous or scared. And the most difficult thing to do is just walk into the room. So if you get the courage enough to just show up for the first day, you'll be happy you did, and you'll learn a lot about yourself and about how to protect yourself and your loved ones. So I highly recommend it. But no, I won't be doing any competitive fighting. I'll leave that for the younger guys.
Okay. We'll keep you penciled in, though, just tentatively, maybe a rough and rowdy on the line. It's like you want to step in and square up against maybe like Paul Bisonet or something, or see how much pump you still got in that right arm of yours.
Yeah, there's pump in there, dude. There's pump. I'm gonna hit a lift right now.
What do you have, like a day like today, Monday? Travel a little bit, like trap spot, or just the full body, full experience. See how with the
today.
Machine
I didn't work out much this weekend in Chicago, so this will probably be 30, 40 minutes of cardio, getting the engine running, start to sweat, and then just kind of hit 2 or 3 lifts, upper body wise, 2 or 3 lower body lifts. Nothing super heavy, but just a nice introductory training session to get back into the week.
I got to get back in the yoga studio. My wrist is healed now. Like it's not the ligament structure damage or whatever, we're back to about 95% here. So my downward facing dog, it's gonna be there. It's strong. It's getting strong. I'm limber. I'm loose. I was hanging out with a couple of PGA guys this weekend. Shout out Nick Hardy.
PGA.
Yeah, I know. I'm struggling here, man.
It's all good.
My buddy finished 14th at the U.S. Open this year. He
oh wow.
He's in town for his week. He just finished his rookie year on the PGA Tour, and he's going back to Scottsdale next week. So he's in Chicago for the week. He was out with the Saturday night. He brought his buddy Gio, who's on the European Challenger Tour, and the three of us are in the bar, and he's just like, we're just dry swinging. We're working on the triangle, the takeaway, the setup, posture, and so he's like, hey, come see me Thursday or Friday. He's going to be playing a practice round at his home country club in Illinois. So he's like, we got to get out and take some tips together. And I'm telling you, Jake, we're staying there having a cold one. And I'm like, you got to tell me, man, U.S. Open like Sunday. And he's like, okay, you want to know? He goes, there's 10 holes left. I'm 3 off the lead. I'm looking at the board. Like, you want to talk about one of the coolest stories, man, hearing it firsthand about him chasing it down and, like, you know, the ball striking that's necessary for a U.S. Open. There's just something about being the PGA pro, like being a pro golfer on the PGA Tour at 26 years old, where like just the balls it takes to go out there every day and fucking grind. So I'll keep you updated on how that round goes. I got a lot of confidence.
Let me know, man. I mean, golf's a tough one because it's like any given day, because all those guys can go extremely low, but to have the confidence, the mindset, and the focus to get it done in those big moments, it's another level of competition, another level of professionalism, and I just really respect their ability to go out there and do it, especially on a Sunday and come from behind and win a tournament. Yeah, it's amazing. I wonder what it's like to square up a golf ball more than a couple times around. The sound and the feel. You can't replace it. I mean, it's, you've swung a bat. It's like, when you land on one and you don't even feel it hit the bat.
Dude, he's like, I got 340 off the tee when I need it. Whoa. Oh. Whoa.
And I can do that maybe once around. The rest are about 280 with a heavy hook.
And keep in mind, you're trying to do it every time too. So you're like 1 for 14. He's doing that. He's just ripping it. And those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
a big guy either.
I'm not swinging as hard as I can. And people think I do. I'm like, look, that's the way I move. I'm just an athlete. My hips fly through the zone. I just can't square the club face well enough. That's it. That's that. I just need more practice. But I don't have time to practice. No. I got 4 hours maybe to play golf a couple days a week. That's it.
Well, we'll be back on Thursday. We're working on a show for Thursday that's a little bit special, a little bit different. No, we will not announce what that show is right now as we continue to work on it. Just be patient with us. Please continue to subscribe, share the episode. Thanks to Bill Goldberg. Thanks to our wrestling fans that showed up today. He's a legend. It's just, again, I got to pinch myself that we were hanging out with Bill Goldberg today. Love that guy.
Superstar. Good show, man. Really enjoy the conversation with Goldberg as well. And guys, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And we appreciate it. I got some Amex fraud alerts, so I got to get on the phone with an agent. People are trying to steal my shit.
Fuck, man. That's what happens when you come.
That's all right. I'll let you know how it goes.
All right. Good luck, brother. We'll be back on Thursday morning. Everybody drive safe. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man.